I'm Ed Adams, and you're listening to the AFCA Podcast. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the AFCA Podcast. And in this episode, we speak to the amazing writer and producer behind Genius Aretha and United States vs. Billie Holiday, Suzan-Lori Parks. And I'll give you all the details after the break. The AFCA Podcast is sponsored by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment.
For the record, I'm going to need you to state your name.
My name is Billie Holiday.
Go on, lady. Go ahead and speak your piece.
You're a victim of drugs. We know that.
Miss Holiday, you want to clear your name, right? Get us off your case and you'll never see us again.
You think I'm gonna stop singing that song? You grandkids will be singing Strange Fruit. Y'all motherfuckers think y'all got something on me. You don't.
That powerful moment was a scene from the award-winning film, The United States vs. Billie Holiday. This incredible story tracks the personal toll from the relentless targeting of the FBI to stop Miss Holiday from performing her iconic protest song, Strange Fruit. Now, the story is based on the book Chasing the Scream by Joanne Harry, and the screenplay was written by writer and producer Suzan-Lori Parks. Now, Parks rose to prominence in the theatrical world when her play, Topdog Underdog, won a Pulitzer Prize in 2002. Now, she wrote her first screenplay, Girl 6, directed and starring Spike Lee in 1996, and has had several film projects to her credit, including the adaptation of Richard Wright's Native Son for HBO. Now, for her two recent projects, Genius Aretha for NatGeo and The United States vs. Billie Holiday for Hulu, Suzan-Lori dives deep into the lives and voices of two legendary singers. Genius Aretha is the latest addition to the Genius series by NatGeo. The 8-part series tells the story of Aretha's rise from her gospel and jazz roots to become the legendary Queen of Soul. Now, the series was also produced by Suzan-Lori. The series was directed by Anthony Hemingway and stars Cynthia Erivo as Aretha Franklin, Malcolm Barret, David Cross, and Courtney B Vance. Now, the aforementioned AFCA award-winning film, The U.S. vs. Billie Holiday, was directed by Lee Daniels and stars Andra Day as Holiday, Trevante Rhodes, and Garrett Hedlund. I spoke to Suzan-Lori via Zoom to talk about the origin and journey of these two amazing projects, her writing process, and lessons she's learned along her own journey. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited. Everything about you just makes me just so happy.
Oh,
Like, genuinely makes me happy.
oh,
I was watching your speech on A Million Suggestions,
Oh, yeah.
and I absolutely love just the energy of it and the message behind it.
Mhm.
And to kind of kick off the conversation that we're going to be having so that people can get a sense of who you are, there was something that you mentioned, and you mentioned this in a couple of spaces, but you said something about increasing the amount of kindness and compassion in the world.
Right.
And that was so profound to me because I think that's such a message that people need today. Can you talk to me about
Mhm.
where that comes from and how do you feel about all those things?
How I feel, Lois. Where it comes from. I just, there's some things that you know. There's some things that you learn from your grandmother. There's some things that you learn from your grandmother, from your grandfather. There's some things that you learn maybe watching your mom and dad, work with each other, or your favorite auntie or whatever. Most of us, if we're fortunate, have experienced kindness. in our lives. And we're not only have experienced it, but we know what a positive impact that can make, just knowing that as a person, I really feel like that's one of the most important things we can do as human beings on the planet. My parents, because we traveled all around the world, because my father was in the service, right? So they used to say to me, you are the ambassador of your race. Because like when we lived in Germany, there weren't a lot of Black people, right? So they were just hipping us, the kids and the family, to the fact that, some person might walk up to you who has never actually seen a Black person before, right? And you are the ambassador of your race, they would say. And now as an adult, I know that while they were right in that situation, these days I am the ambassador. I'm one of the ambassadors of the human race, as are you, Ed, as are we all. And how will we show the beauty of our group of people? And we can do that by encouraging kindness and generosity in the world. With every interaction, some of us just share kindness when it's like with important people, you know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, there's the head of, I'm going to be nice to them. You know what I'm saying? But if we can extend it to an interaction with every single person we meet, the cashier at the grocery store or what have you, every single person, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Absolutely. I love this. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I was doing my research, and then when I saw that and I started reading more about you, there was just like this energy about you that I'm completely in love with. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But that's one of the things I'm here to do. You know what I mean? I'm here to inspire that feeling, and we inspire human beings at our best. We inspire that feeling in each other, and then you can go out into the world and be better.
Exactly.
Right,
I believe that you should make a person smile every day.
Yeah.
I
See,
just
you
make
made
sure.
me smile.
And the podcast is over. This is done. No, it's really fascinating to kind of think about when I was reading up on your past, and I think you have so many anecdotes that I could just kind of pick from. But for this audience, the one that stands out to me the most is your connection to James Baldwin.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that process was and what did he teach you?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I call him, I used to call him Mr. James Baldwin. It's like Mr. James Baldwin. So when I was a kid I was in fourth grade. So I told my parents that I wanted to be a writer. I'm going to be a writer, So for Valentine's Day that year, they gave me a copy of The Fire Next Time, because they're like, if you're going to be a writer, here, you better start reading important works, by James Baldwin, Mr. James Baldwin. On the back of the book, there was a photograph of him, the book Jack, the handsome, young man having written this book. That was when I was in fourth grade. Flash forward 10 years. One of my professors, I was a student at Mount Holyoke College. One of my professors said, did you know that James Baldwin, Mr. James Baldwin, is going to be teaching creative writing at Hampshire College, the college down the road? I said, I had no idea. She said, well, why don't you apply? Maybe you'll get in. I applied along with thousands of other students from the 5 college area, because you could take, if you were a student in one of the 5 colleges, let's see, Mount Holyoke, Smith, Amherst, University of Massachusetts, and Hampshire, right? You could take classes at any college. And so I applied and I got in, and I had a semester's worth of creative writing study, with Mr. James Baldwin, 10 years after I'd read, one of his works for the first time. He taught me, he was a brilliant teacher, very generous. Again, this generosity that we're talking about. Here's a great writer teaching some college students, and he is generous, and also very, very sharp, of course, because he's not going to let you get away with any bullshit, excuse my language, but, he wouldn't let you just kind of phone it in, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But he taught me through his example many things, but the most important thing I took away from that is, like I say, how to conduct yourself in the presence of the Spirit. He taught me how to conduct myself in the presence of the Spirit, how to connect with the Spirit and invite the Spirit into my creative process on a regular basis, and how to be respectful of the Spirit. And in turn, of course, how to be respectful of people. And he also, he had to write evaluations about each student at the end of the semester, and he wrote beautiful evaluation about my work and what I might do, and that I might become a great artist. And I didn't have the heart to prove him wrong, so I've been working very hard to prove him right.
Well, I think you already have.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
But I'm going to keep working because I can't, because there's so much to do,
Absolutely. So full disclosure, I had never seen Topdog Underdog, so I bought the screenplay and I'm reading the play. And I purposely didn't read any reviews or anything. I wanted to go in completely blind. Don't know what it's about.
Right on.
And I'm reading and I'm like, hold up, these names. Oh my God. What? And it's just like page turning. But there was something that I wanted to talk to you about specifically is there's storytelling and then there's truth telling, right? Do you think, are they mutually exclusive, or are they synonymous, or they feed off each other? Like are they symbiotic in your world? How do you see storytelling and truth telling?
That's a great question, Ed. For me, it's funny, for me, storytelling is truth telling. You know what I mean? For me, it's like it has to dovetail. For me, really great storytelling is a way to communicate the truth to your people and give your people, whoever your people are, a deeper understanding of their situation, to awaken them to some truths. Storytelling it's like a myth, it's an old feeling, like, back in the olden days, we would sit around the campfires and tell stories in order to understand our relationship with the cosmos and each other. That's what real storytelling. It's not just entertainment, like to anesthetize you and get you to buy whatever's going to be on the commercial. Buy a burger, drink a beer, wear that dress, that is storytelling that's done these days. To me, that is not the kind of storytelling that I'm interested in. I'm interested in storytelling that will awaken the people to their true nature, to their true power, to their true beauty, to their true entanglements. Just to make an awareness that we are entangled in history, and we need to work on that. For example, all those things. So, true storytelling is very powerful. It's truth telling. It's very powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Now I know that as a teacher, you're teaching playwriting, but you're a screenwriter as well. And I was curious, how do you explain to the layman your process? Like, how do you describe screenwriting and playwriting?
Playwriting. Well, I guess it's in what do you see in your head, right? So when I'm writing a play, Ed, I see a play in my head. I can see the characters on a stage and they're moving around. When I'm writing a screenplay or a teleplay, I see the characters on a screen. So it's what am I visualizing? What am I manifesting? And so the product is different. What comes out, what I'm making is different, although it's based in the same thing. It's based in story, truth telling, like we talked about, character, the pulse of the character is very important. But in playwriting, for me, in my playwriting, I like to practice certain kinds of economy. I like economy of place. I like it to be tight like a piece of music. It's also got to work in such a way that it can be distributed to many people long after its world premiere and still be resilient. You know what I mean? Anybody, any two brothers two black men can step into Topdog Underdog and do the play. It's got to work like that for it to be a good play. Now, film is different. You make it once, you shoot it, then you go into post-production and edit it, and then it is the thing, and it has to have a beauty and a power in that way to communicate big pictures. There's an economy there too. Character is also important. It's more alike than different in my experience. It's more alike than different in my experience. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
You can't have, a play, you can't have so many good car chases.
There you go.
You can't have
you can't have this
road, right? You can't have that open road, thing like we had in Aretha. You can't have, all these different scenes. You know what I mean? You just might not have that in a play, but in a screenplay, you're going to have all those different locations, all that kind of stuff. In a play, the car chase, might not be able to happen.
Yeah, I was like, as I was reading, the thing that I absolutely love is like you're right. There's an economy to the words that you use. Mm-hmm. It's like you don't need much to deliver. And as I was reading, and I was reading your notes, now I'll come back to this in another question. But you use the spell.
Oh, the spells, yeah.
And I had to kind of wrap my head around that concept, from a person who watches film all the time, to take myself back out and put myself in that seat, at the fourth wall, and then think about these characters interacting, and that moment that we kind of they have, and I was like, man, this is important. And the reason why I brought that up was there's two projects that I want to talk to you about. One is the United States versus Billie Holiday. And of course, I'm going to talk about Genius Aretha. And there's something about the way that you place these women in their circumstance, in their moments, where the spell, the way that they took in information, the way they took what was happening to them, and you could see them processing it. And I know that wasn't, I'm pretty sure it wasn't written in there, but I just love that economy of silence.
Well said. The economy of silence. That's beautiful.
And I was just like, it was so brilliant when I started like reading your play and was like making, like, I see this. I love that. So so my question to you is, how important is silence when you're developing your characters? Because as a wordsmith, the words are just as important. I would imagine, just like with space, there's dark matter and there's
right, exactly. And was it Miles Davis who said the I don't know, I can't remember now, but it's some beautiful quotation. It was a great jazz musician who talked about, it's not just the notes, it's the space between the notes. I forget who it is now, but that idea that it's not just the words, it's the spaces between the words, actually, that might be what we're getting at. The spaces beyond words. The word leads us to a certain place, and then there is silence, and the characters, the actors, the people are holding the silence, which is deeper and heavier than any word that we can think of. In a screenplay, what I would do is I would write it in a stage direction. Aretha stands there and gives Ted a look, and the director would be encouraged to, shoot that look. And, Cynthia Erivo was so wonderful at giving those looks. Anthony Hemingway, our director, our producing director, is wonderful in capturing those moments where she would just give Malcolm Barret, our Ted White, a look, or with Billie Holiday, when Billie was on stage and before she sings Strange Fruit for that iconic time, she looks out at the audience, you know what I mean? And that moment, all the words, all the music, all the sound, all the moments have built to Billie Holiday standing on stage and looking over the audience and then deciding to sing the song. Aretha Franklin looking at Ted White, her husband, and then deciding how she's going to sing the song, that iconic song. So yeah.
Absolutely. I was thinking about when she sang Strange Fruit, and I had never thought about it until I had that visual, when she enunciates the T, there's such disdain in her voice. It's the bitterness of it all.
Right.
I was like, oh God, absolutely love it. Thank you for that. That was, God. All right. So let's talk about U.S. Billie Holiday. All right. So, I mean, having grown up seeing Lady Sings the Blues and knowing her story, this is such a different perspective of her life. And I know, like, when you were doing your research, you know, I would imagine, like you were saying, you know, you had to channel her in some way. Can you talk about specifically, when you started doing all that research, when did she start talking in your ear? When did she start giving you the voice that she wanted you to put on paper?
That's a good question. You have to, in my experience, you have to earn their trust. I have to earn their trust. You know, they ain't just going to talk to anybody. Neither Aretha nor Billie Holiday, nor any of my characters, Lincoln and Booth and nobody. You know what I mean? Because what they have to tell is some heavy stuff, right? It's the real deal they're going to tell me. So I have to earn their trust. I mean, I always feel like they've called me, you know, I've been called to tell their story, to help tell their story. But still I have to show that I'm really going to do it, you know? So after lots and lots of research, sometimes with Billie Holiday, I was willing to listen to her behind the same thing with Aretha, behind the glamour, behind, like I say, the firmament, underneath the firmament of her stardom, you know, the glamour, the story of Billie Holiday, you know, sometimes obscures the reality, the human nature of the woman. And I was willing to visit with, hang out, spend time with, tell the story of the human being human. In both cases, Billie Holiday and Aretha Franklin. So love them just the same. You know what I mean? I didn't just want to see the glossy surface. And once, in Billie Holiday's case, once she realized that, oh, she was just going to talk to me then.
Nice.
She didn't have to be all that. You know what I'm saying? She could just be regular.
And she tells you what she wants you to know.
Yeah.
So when we talk about it, like, one of the things, what I notice, especially, and it comes from my own male perspective, right? Is that when we look at stories like Genius Aretha and the U.S. versus Billie Holiday, you kind of, you know, we think about it as history, right? And I know I'm going to use this horrible phrase, but it's relevant. Her story, right? Right. And it's like, you know, we have to kind of take off these male, you know, myopic kind of blinders and see them in both instances. When you just kind of remove those blinders off and say, no, look at her through these lenses and not this lens that you've been so trained to see. And I think it was just done so beautifully. So can you talk a little bit about how you decided, as you were kind of creating these one film and then one series, how you decided to make sure that these amazing women were just kind of just empowered to have that space and the voice in the story that they deserved?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And I think I did at least two things. One, I didn't shy away from the truth of their lives. So, you know, some people were like, oh, there's so many men in these stories. I'm just like, well, these are two stories about women in the music business. There are a lot of men in the music business last time I looked, you know, and certainly in Billie Holiday's day, and certainly in Aretha Franklin's day, there's a lot of men in the music business. It doesn't diminish their story, though. to have men in the story. It is an opportunity to show, especially in Aretha's case, how her tenacity, how she continued to triumph, how she stood up to people, Black men, white men, how she brought people together, the men in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, to create Never Loved a Man, that beautiful song. So it's an opportunity. The reality of her circumstances is not just retelling old stuff, but it's to show her, allow her to demonstrate her power, because we see her triumph continually in these situations where a lot of people didn't succeed. So there's that. And also I drew on my own experience. I mean, Black woman in the entertainment business, I've had to really, stay strong. And reach out to people, because I don't know everything. I reach out for help. I'm okay with admitting that I don't know things, and somebody help me. I pray a lot. But I mean, those two things, I think it's very important, and it's to show a woman being tenacious and being ambitious, which is a bad word. If you're a woman, you're called. People say you're ambitious. That's like always said in a negative way. But to show that Aretha Franklin, for example, really wanted a hit record, and how beautiful that desire is to be a star in the firmament. That's what she wanted. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot. I just got so excited. I forgot.
Oh no, this is great. This is great. No, thank you. No, I remember reading in a history book once that, you can't tell a true version of history if you remove like the sex and vices from it, right?
Wow. Well said. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. And so when I was watching this, and this is something we see with Lee Daniels constantly, he always adds that back in. You need that grit in order to fully understand the choices that they made, right? I was just like I really enjoyed that. So there's so many things. All right, so let's get back into this, because I'll go down the rabbit hole with you. So again, when we talk about like Andra Day and this role, and as a writer, we're accustomed to rewrites.
Yes.
But there's something very unique about screenwriting where, once the casting is done, there's conversations and there's retooling and there's rewriting. Right. And I wanted to know from your script, how did you, after meeting Andra Day, how did you streamline the script to fit her so that the essence of Billie comes out and yet she still maintains herself and be seen? You
mean Andra still maintains herself?
I'm sorry, yeah, Andra Day, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay because I think it was more the opposite. I think Andra like leapt into Billie Holiday.
Really?
And like you said, Lee adding all the piling it on, those real elements, just kind of turning up the volume of Billie Holiday's life. I think Andra leapt into it. I mean, she's a lovely, lovely person and a brilliant performer. But her life, her day to day is not like Lady's day to day. Lady Day's day to day. It's very different, and I think she really just leapt into the role. In a way that a lot of actresses, pick and choose and kind of might put their toe in the water. Andra just leapt right in it. When I write a script, I really, I tell the actor or the director, whomever, comes on board, I wrote this for you to shine, and I would tell Lee that, I wrote this for you to shine, brother. And same with Andra, I wrote this for you to shine. I want you to just bite into it and let it take you. And I think she did that. Just brilliant performance. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's I thought she was brilliant. All right. My final question, hopefully is a good anecdote. Is I read that Aretha Franklin contacted you to write the musical.
Yes.
And And then you ended up with this project.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
talk to me about how this happened. Well, one, what did she say to you?
Right.
And then
right.
two, how did you get this project?
Yeah. Well, yeah, she told a lot of jokes. We had a really pleasant, fun conversation. It was several years ago when I was still living in Los Angeles. Her agents called my agents, and then they set up the phone call, so it wasn't just out of the blue. But I remember I had earphones on, much like I have now, these headphones, so her voice, goes in one ear and doesn't come out the other. You know what I mean, Ed? It's like I still have the Queen's voice in my head. So when Brian Grazer called me up, we were at Sundance in 2019, opening the Festival of Native Son. Directed by Rashid Johnson, that I'd written the screenplay adaptation for. And Brian Grazer from Imagine called me up and said, "We're doing Aretha Franklin for season 3 of Genius, you want to come on board as a showrunner?" And I was like, wow. And there was the opportunity that hadn't come to fruition with Miss Franklin to do a stage musical, but here was the opportunity to help tell the story of her genius and of her life. And I was so grateful for the opportunity.
That's awesome. I really enjoyed the series. Thank you for
you.
doing that. I know we're out of time, but again,
Thank
thank you for your genius, by the
you.
way.
Oh,
and
you're so kind.
you taught me a lot of valuable lessons, and I'm going to go forth and try to make people smile. And I'm going to embrace these ideals that you speak so eloquently about radical inclusion, because I really enjoyed that as well.
Right on, brother. That's the key, right? Radical inclusion. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's
So
right.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank
you have
you,
a great
Ed.
day.
Thank you. Have a great day, brother. Really.
You
Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that was me gushing over Suzan-Lori Parks as we discuss her latest projects, Genius Aretha and the United States versus Billie Holiday. Now, you can watch both the 8-part series and the award-winning film on Hulu. And if you haven't already, check out and download the award-winning song Tigress and Tweed by Andra Day and Raphael Sadiq from the movie soundtrack. And that's our show. Thanks again for Suzan-Lori Parks and her team for making this interview possible. Now, did you know that the AFCA TV honors are just around the corner? And you can catch up on all the noteworthy shows by checking out the AFCA Roundtable sessions on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, be sure to like and subscribe. So until next time, keep your head up.